Hi, I'm Marie Elizabeth Molly, and this is Relationship Alchemy. Today, we're talking about communicating with confidence in business and marriage with Laurie-Ann Murabito. Laurie-Ann Murabito is a speaking coach and speaking strategist working with clients to communicate with confidence and leverage speaking opportunities to be positioned as the expert. A reformed, painfully shy gal who accidentally became a professional speaker, which I love. How is that accidental? I'm so curious. Laurie-Ann combines her 25 years as an award-winning speaker, master coach, and obsession with her client results. Welcome to Relationship Alchemy, Laurie-Ann.
Thank you so much. I've been so looking forward to having this conversation with you and sharing with your audience.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I so loved our chat the other day and knew I had to have you come on. So tell me how a painfully shy gal becomes a professional speaker.
Self-integrity being her highest value. I accidentally said yes when somebody pointed at me and said, you do the speaking at a networking event that I was part of a planning committee for. And I shook my head yes. And deep inside, I was like, what are you saying? I don't do this. But self-integrity literally is one of my highest values, even still today. And because I said that I would do it, I didn't even think about what I had said yes to. It wasn't like, I'm not a speaker, I can't do this speaking. It was just, I said yes, so I guess I'm showing up and I'm doing this. So what am I going to speak about? And I spoke and it wasn't very good. I am living proof that you can go from not being able to peel your eyes off the floor to making eye contact to speaking and actually making a pretty darn good living speaking on stages.
I love that. So would that be one of the first tenets of speaking with confidence, having eye contact?
Definitely. And just feeling comfortable in yourself, because you can make eye contact, but almost be staring at people because you're like, I have to make eye contact. I have to make eye contact.
It can be kind of robotic sometimes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like when you are speaking, in front of people, you don't want to like eye contact to this person and the next person and the next person while you're like doing the speaking, because it will come across as phony. I mean, to just have a conversation with somebody. So how do you have that conversation with somebody? Well, if it's an in-person event, get there early and say hello to people. Now you've already met them. So now you're not really speaking to a room of strangers, but you've had like these little micro conversations with people. It's like, hi, how are you? What brought you to, this particular meeting today? People love that. It's like, oh my God, I got to meet the speaker. I got to share with them. And so you get to even inject them that, like a particular person, their name, what they, like why they showed up, what struggles that they were having. If you inject that in your presentation, you're making those people that are in the audience look like rock stars and they feel like they're part of the presentation.
And that takes a certain amount of confidence to do, I think, because if you're not used to speaking on the fly, like if you're the type of speaker who memorizes a script, that can be a big hurdle, right?
It can be, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of memorizing your entire presentation. That's and in a TED Talk, yes. The shorter the presentation, the more powerful every word has to be. But if you're giving like a keynote speech, that's probably going to be a little more scripted as well. But if you're like speaking at a chamber event, an association, I always tell my clients, you want to memorize the beginning and the end. And here's why. You memorize the beginning because we all get the butterflies and the nervousness. And if you know exactly what you're going to say, for the first, I'm going to say like 5 to 6 minutes, the butterflies will have gone away. And you literally can just like, what you're speaking about in the middle, but you can really ad lib and inject, like other stories in there as you're going. And then you always want to memorize your ending so that you always get your call to action in for the audience. And we want to make sure that the audience hears you last. You don't want to be like rushing through because you're looking at the clock saying, oh my God, like I got to end in 2 minutes and my ending is 5 minutes. Like, don't speak faster. Just
Yeah.
keep an eye on the time and you know exactly how long your ending is.
That's great. And so how does having more confidence, in these ways as a speaker help you in speaking up in your marriage? I'd love to make that
Oh, yes.
bridge.
Yes. I feel like I have done a lot of self-work, and I can honestly say that I've worked on self-love in the past couple of years, and I can see how it's shown up in my speaking,
Hmm.
first off. And then
Can you
because,
unpack that a little? I love that. How has
yes,
that shown up?
well, I think I'm a lot more animated.
Hmm.
I tell stories differently. Like I'm literally in the moment instead of, well, here's some information and here's a story and here's a client success. I'm literally like, I'm more animated on stage. And if somebody comes up to me afterwards, like I'm very selective about feedback that I hear. Whereas before, when I wasn't loving myself, I would take everything that somebody said to me as gospel.
Hmm.
And sometimes feedback can be contradicting each other, depending on who's giving it.
Well,
Anyway,
and sometimes feedback is a function of somebody's projection and the lens they're looking through, and it's not actually accurate for you.
exactly. So through this self-love, like, I mean, I will listen to somebody. It's like, okay. But I process it like, is that worthwhile? Should I keep this? Should I just disregard this? And it's just like, okay, like I get to do what I want to do with it. It doesn't mean I'm going to change the way that I speak.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this now show up in my marriage is that I really believe that self-love is the foundation to everything. Because
Oh, yeah.
I'm speaking your language, right? Yes. And I feel that I am more of my husband's equal.
Hmm.
And he and I are both entrepreneurs. So rather untraditional like schedules, if you will. And he works a lot. So to be able to, like say to him, like, I just feel, like you've been really busy, you've been traveling a lot. I feel disconnected to you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what a powerful communication. So clear, simple, not blaming, just what's
No.
happening.
Yeah. Like, and here's what I need. I just
Yes.
need more of your undivided attention. Sometimes that does not mean that it's going to happen over dinner at home or dinner at a restaurant. Sometimes like he's leaving the next day to go on another 5-day trip. Like right now, he's actually on the West Coast, but we've had some wonderful conversations while he's been away, whether he's driving in the car, I just feel connected to him. And that connection, I mean, like, like for a woman, like for myself, that just feeds me for days.
Oh,
Days.
totally. Yeah, it's similar for Patrick and me when we were apart. Like he just preceded me. He left yesterday for Detroit, where he's from, and I'm joining him tomorrow. And, I didn't know if I'd hear from him last night or not. He's connecting with old friends, all of that. And he reached out and he said, hey, I just wanted to connect with you because I know you're probably going to go to bed earlier than me tonight. And I just wanted to connect. And it felt so good. Like, and we had just seen each other that morning, but it's just that those little touches where, they're thinking about you. And if that's not happening, to ask for it directly in the way that you suggest. Don't get passive aggressive or weird about it. It's just like, hey, I feel disconnected from you. Could I have your undivided attention for 10 minutes? Could we jump on a call? Like whatever it is. And there's no shame in asking for things like that. I think sometimes we can get tied up in the asking because we feel weird about it. And then it comes out wonky. And then maybe we get a wonky response and then we're off and running onto whatever trip that we go on.
We start making up all these stories about what that means and what it sounded like and what the relationship, like the road that it's headed down. And stories are just make up your own story.
Yeah,
make up the story that's actually
exactly.
going to help you.
And that feels good. The story that's good for you. Yeah. So I know that you and your husband met later in life, just like Patrick and I met later in my life and somewhat his life. He's a bit younger than me. But how do you think that affected or informed how you show up?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, too, like literally like
Congratulations.
just a few days ago.
Oh,
But I think, but before I answer that, I just want to like what we were just talking about the asking. And I just want
hmm.
people to know, like the first time you ask, sometimes it's awkward.
Yeah.
Feels weird. The other person's never heard you ask this question before. But you know what? The more you ask this, like, hey, I'm just feeling disconnected. You know, you've been traveling a lot. I've been traveling a lot. You know, can we just like it does get easier. I mean, new things whenever we're learning new skills that I have to remind myself of this all the time. And I remind myself that like I'm courageous and I can do awkward things with ease.
Oh, I love that. I can do awkward things with ease. I'm courageous. Oh, so good.
I used to say I
Yes.
can do hard things with these, but I'm just like, actually, it's not that it's hard. It's just that it's awkward right now.
Yeah. It's unfamiliar. It's something new and different. Anytime we're learning a new skill, like you said, there's going to be this awkward period where it's not in the muscle memory yet.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So communicating powerfully and confidently in your relationship can become part of your muscle memory. It just becomes part of the landscape of how you communicate, period. But in the beginning, I agree with you. That's why I often offer little prompts or sentence structures to my clients just to give them a leg up. You know, like try saying it like this, which is not to be rote about it, but just as a way to begin. And then you find your own way.
Yes, I agree. Like, you know, being able to have dialogue that here's a starting point.
Yeah.
And it gives you a little bit, like I always say, like sometimes you only need like 10 seconds of courage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think giving somebody dialogue actually does. It gives them that 10 seconds of courage.
That's so great.
Mike and I getting married later in life. So we were, gosh, in our early 40s. He's a couple of years older than me, although he doesn't like to admit that. We had to have the baby conversation because I wasn't about to have children at this age, and I didn't know if it was something that was important to him. And you know, so to be like within the first like 3 weeks, like, hey, we have to have this conversation because so that was an awkward conversation for me but it was important for me to like get that out because if having children was something that was important to him in his life, then I wasn't the woman that was going to be able to fulfill that need for him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Having some of those hard conversations at first was hard, was awkward. But I can also, I'll be totally honest that there were some conversations that I didn't have. And for some reason, I guess I didn't think that they were important. But then later on, I was just like, wow, I didn't even have that conversation. Like, here's one.
I'd love an example. Yeah.
Yeah. So I took his last name personally, but I'd already written a book, you know, and was finishing my second book with my previous, you know, with my it wasn't my maiden name. It was from my first husband. And so I had this professional name. So now I've got like these two last names and like, I never had the conversation, like, I mean, we didn't have children. So it's almost like, why did I feel the need to change my last name? And I never had that conversation with him. I don't even know if it was important to him.
Wow. That's so interesting.
Yeah. But having, you know, and then I was doing a lot of social media. I had changed my name when we got married. I had changed it on Facebook, but then I started using Facebook for, you know, business purposes. So then I had to change it back to my professional name.
And did you have to field a bunch of questions?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that was a difficult
conversation then. So sometimes when we delay, that's what I've learned. Sometimes when we delay those conversations, it can be a lot deeper and a little more awkward. Like people can come to that conversation a little defensive.
Right. I was going to say already kind of worked up because they've decided something about it already.
Yes.
Instead of having a blank slate.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that's so interesting about your last name. I kept my married name as well from my first marriage because I'd already published under it. And didn't want to confuse the marketplace, I guess.
Exactly.
And so now Patrick and I are engaged, and I'm trying to think if we've had a conversation, but we will now. I don't think he expects me to change my name, but it is worth having that conversation.
Yeah. And Mike's last name is very hard to spell. So it's like Murabito is just so much, it really is so much easier. And like, if you Google my name, Laurie-Ann Murabito, like so much stuff comes up. Can you imagine the SEO challenge of changing the last name?
Oh yeah. I mean, it would be bad. Yeah. So what are some other ways that either communicating powerfully in your relationship has helped you as a speaker and a coach, or vice versa, communicating powerfully on stage and with your clients has helped you in your marriage?
I think, and I come from the executive coaching world, and one of the things that I've always said to my clients was your home life impacts your work life more than your work life impacts your home life. I mean, there's just
unless you're working super late every night.
But if you work super late every night, yes, it's going to impact your home life. And then like that home life is still going to impact, it's
True.
like suddenly it's like, why aren't you going home? Is it really because it's just a big project? Because, I mean, if my husband was coming home late every night, as long as he said like, honey, like, I'm so sorry, like we'll spend time this weekend, I'm almost done this big project, like that sort of communication. It's like, oh, okay. Like, I understand.
Yeah.
And then he like gets a better night's sleep. He goes to work, the next day, he gets a lot done. Yeah. So what if he's still staying like home late, but maybe he makes a phone call, like the cute phone call that Patrick gave you and just said, hey, I know you're going to be going to bed, early soon. I just wanted to let you know that I'm thinking of you.
Yeah. That goes such a long way when you're in a launch or some kind of project where you have to be under the gun.
Yes. Yes.
For sure.
Of launch. I mean, there's a lot of times where I'm running programs and they're like 5 or 6 p.m. at night. I mean, I have DM'd him like from speaking, like the break is going to be in 15 minutes. Is dinner going to be ready? And he's such a player. He's just like, yep. He goes, I'm almost done. Like whether
I love
he's
that
or something, but sometimes it's a dance.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a fast dance and sometimes it's a slow dance, but it's definitely two people together.
Yeah, I love that image of it being a dance because what I love about partner dancing, and tell me if this feels accurate to you, is I'm in a female body, so I'm going to speak as a woman. Very often the partner is doing the leading, let's say in a partnered kind of dance, they're leading. But me as the follower, quote unquote follower, I still have to hold my own center. And it's more that I have my center, they have their center. And then my listening is super acute to move with the direction they're suggesting, right? Because I happen to play the follower role in a dance, say. I love salsa. So I'm thinking about salsa as I'm speaking. And it's not that I abdicate, I'm just a wet noodle and I just abdicate all responsibility for my, and it's similar in relationship. I think it's a dance, although there the leading and the following, I think has more give and take. It's not always one person leading, but I think it's worth remembering that even if you're following someone's lead in a certain moment, because that's the way the dance is going, you still have your own center. You're still responsible for being on your feet.
Yes. And why would our partners want to actually like carry us through the dance?
Exactly.
Talk about a lot of work. And I don't want him to ever feel like, so this is sort of like a great metaphor for like, he's not responsible for my happiness.
Not at all. Exactly.
And I'm not responsible for his happiness.
Yeah. And yet, even knowing that, do you find sometimes we can fall into those sort of tropes of, oh, you make me so happy, I don't usually say that because it's just not, I believe what you believe. It's like, he's not responsible for that. He doesn't make me happy. It's my responsibility to fill myself, do the things that fill me up. And then I can bring him the overflow. I can bring him the fullness. Yes. If I'm relying on him for me to be okay, that's just going to always lead somewhere not so great in my experience.
I always feel like I choose to be in this relationship and he chooses to be in this relationship. And it's not because I make him happy.
Hmm.
It's not because he makes me happy. It's like I make myself happy and we both choose to be here, like on this journey together.
Oh, so beautifully said. Like, could you say a word about choosing? Because once you're married, I think the convention is like, well, we're married. It's a done deal. Like we're
No.
together,
No.
right? And I really believe what you're saying. And I'd love for you to talk about that aspect of choice, even once you're married, and what that means.
And I've said this to Mike a number of times. A piece of jewelry does not make me married. A piece of paper does not make me married. Marriage, it's up here. It was a choice that I make. It's a choice that I make every single day. We live in a very interesting world. Guess what? It is so easy to have an email address that you log into and have a conversation with somebody else. It is so easy to have multiple personalities on Match.com. That's all there is to it. So it's a choice to be in this relationship. And I trust that Mike is in this relationship for the right reasons. And I trust myself that I'm also in this relationship. And all of this comes from self-love.
Oh, please say more about that.
Because I love myself, first and foremost, I am a much better person in this relationship. Let's say this relationship ends, like my first marriage didn't end because of a divorce. My husband passed away. So
sorry.
He was a wonderful, wonderful man. And I learned so much from that short marriage that I have used in this marriage. It has made me a better person. And I just choose to be here. I choose to love myself. And I'm also, so who knows, what if something happens to Mike? Like, what if there was an accident or, let's just say the marriage did split up. Well, I still have to spend the rest of my life with me.
Good point.
So if I don't love me, how can I, I remember always hearing that if you don't love yourself, you can't love other people. And I was just like, yeah, whatever. But until you really do learn to love yourself, it's like, that's when you actually see that, wow, it really makes a huge difference in all areas of my life, include not just my marriage.
Oh, absolutely. And it makes, I feel, all the difference in how you communicate. Because there's a way, I think, when our self-love is shaky, that we communicate seeking validation.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the difference between that and communicating confidently lies in what you're saying, how you feel about yourself. Would that be, is that accurate?
Yes, exactly. It all comes down to how I feel about myself. And I show up differently. I really feel like anybody who does love themselves, they have that confidence, that that deep inner confidence, and they show up so differently, whether they're speaking on a stage, speaking on a podcast like this, or just speaking one-on-one with their husband or spouse, significant other, over the kitchen counter, like, hey, here's what I need. Here's what I want. It gives you that voice, like, what is so wrong with me sharing my thoughts and opinions?
Amen. And this is making me think about, because both of us we're more introverted than extroverted, right? So there's a piece about confidence, I think, that people mix up with bravado and bluster. There's the image of confidence that those of us who are more sensitive and introverted and sort of attuned to situations want to shy away from. So I want to be super clear that we're not talking about the kind of big, brash, loud thing that often passes for confidence, like, you can't mess with me, right? Like that big kind of thing. We're not talking about that. It's I think when you're truly confident, it's a quiet thing. Could you say a bit about that?
I would definitely be one of those quiet, confident people. So I have a client, and she used to live here locally in New Hampshire, and so there's a mutual person that we know, and I remember her saying on a call, "But I'm not like such and such." And this woman is got a beautiful big personality. She walks into a room and it's like, "Hello, everybody, I'm here." Like she's just got that energy about her. And I said to her, it's like, being confident doesn't mean you have to be like her. You get to be your own. Like I'm one of these people who just, I'm also 5'10" without shoes. I mean, I walk
Wow.
into a room and I do command some sort of attention because people do notice somebody who's 5'10", 6 feet tall with heels on. But I'm also one of these quiet people. Like I will walk up to people and like, "Hi, I'm so glad that you're here," and I just kind of like make my way around the room. I'm a quiet, confident person. So
It's so relieving. It's so relieving in a way.
yeah. So
Like
for everybody to understand that, like, confidence comes in many different shapes and sizes.
exactly. It doesn't all look the same, and it doesn't have to look like inserting yourself.
Right.
To me, it's an inside job.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
And when I'm speaking on stage, that's a different form of confidence than
for
if I'm
sure.
attending an event and I'm there and I'm networking and I'm meeting people, or I'm at a family party. It's all different forms of confidence.
Thank you so much for speaking to that today. I know you have a podcast. I'd love to let folks know how to find you.
Oh my God, I can't believe like a half hour just like went by so
I know
fast.
it's bananas.
Like, didn't we just start?
I know I could talk to you forever.
Yes.
I felt that way the last time we talked too. It was like, what?
Yes.
It flew by.
Yes.
I want more time.
My podcast is Be in Demand with Laurie-Ann, and you can also find me over at speakandstandout.com. And if Instagram is your thing, you can find me at Laurie-Ann.Murabito and also on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share?
Your voice matters. Your story matters, and the world needs you.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So this has been Communicating with Confidence in Business and Marriage with Laurie-Ann Murabito. And I'm Maria Elizabeth Molly. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time, remember that a great relationship starts with you.